Mesdames, Messieurs, bonjour.
Ladies and gentlemen, good day. I would like to welcome you to this annual meeting of shareholders with Bombardier. I also would like to welcome the participants who are following us on Bombardier's website. We'll ask you to please close your cell phones, your cameras, and any electronic device during the course of this meeting.
Shareholder meeting. And I also welcome all the participants who are watching us on the website of Bombardier. I ask you to turn off your mobile phone, your cameras, and all electronic devices right now for the duration of the meeting. Our
meeting will be held mainly in French, except for the speech by the President and Chief Executive Officer, which will be given in English and in French. A simultaneous English translation service is available. If you have not already done so, I now invite you to get a simultaneous translation device from our attendants. For the participants watching our meeting on our website, a simultaneous English translation is also available.
The meeting will be held mainly in French, except for the speech by the President and Chief Executive Officer, which will be given in English and French. A simultaneous English translation service is available, and if you have not already done so, I now invite you to get a simultaneous translation device from our attendants. For the participants watching our meeting on the website, a simultaneous English translation is also available. Maintenant, je vous présente les personnes qui me seconderont.
I would like to introduce to you those people who will be helping me during the meeting. To my left, Mr. Steve Robitaille, Senior Vice President, Legal Affairs and Secretary to the company. Also, I would like to underscore the presence of Daniel Desjardins, who for the first time in 21 years is not directly in the front with us because of his retirement. But thank you very much for all those years of loyalty. To my far right, Mr. John DeBert, Senior VP and Chief Financial Officer, as well as Monsieur Alain Bellemare, President and CEO. I will act as chair of this meeting and Maître Robitaille as secretary. I have before me a copy of the notice of meeting as well as associated documents addressed to the shareholders, as well as of an affidavit of Mr. Robitaille confirming their send-off. I ask them to please file this with the meeting's dossier. I would like to underscore that this annual meeting of shareholders has been convened to deal with the specific issues mentioned in the notice of meeting. Maître Steve Gilbert, as well as Madame Sonia Cavacia from the Service aux Investisseurs Computer Share, will act as scrutineers during the course of this meeting. According to the report that they've handed to us at the beginning of the meeting, they have confirmed to us that we have the prescribed quorum in terms of the holders of shares A as well as the B shares, Class B shares of Bombardier, represented either in person, either by proxy at this meeting. I will ask Maître Robitaille to please file the report to the dossier of the meeting. I declare this Bombardier annual meeting of shareholders duly and validly constituted. I would like to ask Maître Robitaille to share a few instructions with you as pertaining to safety. If the fire alarm were to go off, we would ask you to please remain calm, sit down, and to wait for further instructions. Unless otherwise indicated, you will be asked to leave through the emergency exits that are the closest to you. They are situated at the front and at the back of this room. All registered shareholder or proxy holder duly appointed will once again be able to vote electronically with regards to each and every one of the proposals. This will allow us to accelerate the voting process and to introduce the results of the vote on the screen during the course of the meeting. In other words, there will not be any vote by raise of hand. I will now ask Maître Robitaille to go over the modalities of this e-voting process with you. Those of you who are either registered or proxy holders eligible to vote during the course of this meeting and who have not yet exercised their right to vote would have noticed at the registration that they were given a portable electronic device as well as a personalized smart card, including the relevant information on all the shares, giving them the right to take part in the e-voting process. Please make sure that the arrows at the bottom of the card are facing you and that the card is properly inserted into the device up until the red line. If you've done this properly, a welcome message should appear on the screen of your device. If you have or represent more than one account, the card that would have been given to you includes all of the relevant information pertaining to all of your accounts. After the presentation of each of the proposals submitted at this meeting, you will be invited to vote by tapping on one of the three buttons on your device, 1, 2, or 3, in order to indicate your preference. Once you will be called upon to vote, the device will post, according to the proposal that will be submitted, one of the different voting options: for, against, or abstention. In order to vote, you have to tap the appropriate button according to the proposal that will be submitted to you. Once you will have voted, the word received will be posted on your screen in order to indicate that your vote has been taken into account. If you wish to change your vote, you must tap the appropriate button reflecting your new choice. All the votes represented by shareholders or proxy holders eligible to vote during this meeting will be taken into account and added to those that were received by proxy, and the final result will be presented on the screen immediately after the holding of the e-voting process held for each proposal. If you've already voted by proxy before this meeting, you no longer need to vote again today, since your vote will have already been taken into account in the total that has already been received up to date. I would now like to submit to you the consolidated financial statements for Bombardier for the fiscal year ending December 31, 2018. Also, the independent auditor's report on the financial statements, as well as the annual financial report to shareholders. Nevertheless, since these documents have been filed publicly pursuant to the provisions of the law, I will dispense Maître Robitaille from having to read them over. I will ask her to file a copy of these in the meeting's dossier. We will now move to the election of Bombardier's board members. Senior management at Bombardier is suggesting that you elect for this fiscal year 14 directors. You were able to see on pages 9 to 13 of the 2019 circular a short bio as well as other relevant information on each of these candidates. Monsieur André Bombardier, Jean-Louis Fontaine, and Carles Represas will be retiring at the closing of this meeting. Before going ahead with the elections, I would like to take a few minutes to share with you the exceptional contribution of each of these individuals to our company. André Bombardier is born the same year as the company that has its name. In 15 years of career, 44 years of which he was director of the board, he has contributed to transform Bombardier into an industrial giant. From 1969 to today, he has occupied different positions within the company, of which VP Research and Development of the Ski-Doo division, VP Marketing of the Nautical Products division, President of Roski, VP of the Administrative Board. During the course of his entire life, Monsieur Bombardier has been an exceptional ambassador for the company, and his in-depth knowledge of Bombardier really made his participation quite priceless on the board. Jean-Louis Fontaine joined the board the same year as André Bombardier and has 55 years' service within the company. During this period, he has also occupied many strategic different positions: VP Production of the Sea-Doo division, whereas the industry was really developing rapidly. Monsieur Fontaine also played a very important role in the diversification of the company in rail transportation. As VP Transportation Products, he was at the head of the team that was responsible for preparation of the bid of the Metro contract of Montreal that was won by Bombardier. He was also VP of planning of the corporation and VP of the board of directors. His priceless advice has contributed to guarantee the long-term growth of Bombardier and has made of Bombardier a world-class corporation. And finally, Carlos Represas joined Bombardier in 2004 after a long and fruitful career within the management of Nestlé. As president of the advisory board of Bombardier for Latin America and Mexico, Mr. Represas has greatly contributed to the development of our corporation in Latin America, as well as our aeronautic activities in Querétaro. Today, these facilities are and the industrial cluster that surrounds it is a very important element of our supply chain. The efforts of Monsieur Represas aiming at creating links between Quebec and Mexico have actually led him to be named Chevalier de l'Ordre National du Québec in 2016. Monsieur Represas was also very much appreciated as a member of our board, sitting on several committees simultaneously and chairing that of governance and nominations. On your behalf, as well as the behalf of all of the colleagues on the board, I would like to thank Monsieur Bombardier, Monsieur Fontaine, as well as Monsieur Represas for their priceless collaboration. I would now like to have a proposal for the elections of these 14 candidates.
Monsieur le Président, mon nom
the screen, you will have to vote by pressing on 1 if you want to vote for that candidate, or 3 if you want to abstain. We will start the voting process. The vote is open for Mr. Baudouin. The vote is now closed. The vote is open for Mr. Alain Bellemare. The vote is now closed. The vote is open for Mrs. Joanne Bissonnette. The vote is now closed. The vote is open for Mr. Charles Bombardier. The vote is now closed. The vote is open for Mrs. Martha Finbrooks. The vote is now closed. The vote is open for Mrs. Diane Fontaine. The vote is now closed. The vote is open for Mrs. Diane Giard. The vote is now closed. The vote is open for Mr. Anthony R. Graham. The vote is now closed. The vote is open for Mr. August W. Henningsen. The vote is now closed. The vote is open for Mr. Pierre Marcouillet. The vote is now closed. The vote is open for Mr. Douglas R. Oberhalman. The vote is now closed. The vote is open for Mr. Vikram Pandit. The vote is now closed. The vote is open for Mr. Anthony N. Tyler. The vote is now closed. The vote is open for Mrs. Beatrice Weather Di Mauro. The vote is now closed. Here are the results for the election of each of the 14 candidates proposed as director. I'd like to congratulate the directors who have just been elected. I would like to thank the board of directors for its governance and its monitoring, which was exercised rigorously. Thank you for your contribution and your advice, which will enable Bombardier to continue to show leadership in the rail and aeronautics industries. We will now move on to the appointment of Bombardier's independent auditors for the current fiscal year. You also have to authorize the board to set their compensation. The board of directors, as well as Bombardier's senior management, recommend to appoint again the certified professional accountants Ernst & Young. Their term will end at the close of the next annual shareholder meeting of the company. Can someone propose a motion? Mr. President, my name is Annie-Claude Poiré, and I'm a Bombardier shareholder. I propose that we appoint Ernst & Young, certified professional accountants, as independent auditors of Bombardier for the current fiscal year, that their term lasts until the close of the next annual shareholder meeting of the company, and that the board of directors be authorized to set their remuneration. Would someone like to second this motion? Mr. President, my name is Alina Sandou, and I am a shareholder of Bombardier. I second this motion. The proposal was duly made and seconded. Now you have to vote on the appointment of Ernst & Young as Bombardier's independent auditors. I will ask Mr. Robitaille to hold the electronic vote. The modalities of the vote are the same as previously. You have to press 1 if you want to vote for Ernst & Young as Bombardier's independent auditors, or press on 3 if you want to abstain. The vote is now open. The vote is now closed. Here are the results. In light of those results, I would like to congratulate Ernst & Young for the renewal of their mandate that was just granted to them by you, thus showing your trust in them. According to our agenda, the shareholders or proxies are now invited to vote for or against the non-binding resolution with regards to Bombardier's approach for the compensation of the member of the senior management. You can read the text of this resolution on the screen behind us or at pages 14 and 15 of the 2019 circular. As it is explained in our circular, Bombardier's approach aims at maximizing the overall performance of our company by focusing on the individual performance of its senior managers. The objective is to recruit, retain, and motivate the top executives in order to improve the company's performance and increase its value for our shareholders, which will have for impact to support Bombardier's commitment in terms of performance-based compensation. We are now ready to vote. Sorry? You have a comment to make? My name is Willy Gagnon. I represent MEDAC. I have a technical issue. Don't you need someone to propose a motion and someone to second it? I will do it, yes. Second, I will spare you our usual critics with regards to the executive's compensation process. Your ratio is around 132, and I would like to congratulate you for adopting this practice in 2013. You know that in the most recent federal budget, it was announced that this process with regards to remuneration will become mandatory. So we are happy to see that you have contributed to this decision from our government by implementing this practice before it becomes mandatory. Thank you very much for this initiative. Thank you for your comments. We are now ready to vote. Bombardier's Board of Directors recommends to you as shareholders or proxy holders to vote for the adoption of this resolution. I'd like to remind you that since this is a consultative resolution, the results of the vote won't be binding for Bombardier's board. However, the members of the Human Resources Committee for compensation will take it into account in their future review of the principal policies, programs, or arrangements with regards to the compensation of the senior management. Could I have a proposal for the adoption of this motion? Mr. President, my name is Caroline Nguyen. I am a shareholder of Bombardier. I propose the adoption of the non-binding resolution with regards to Bombardier's approach for the compensation of its executive members, as seen on pages 14 and 15 of the 2019 circular. Is there a shareholder or a proxy holder who would like to support or to second this motion? Mr. President, my name is David Lee. I am a shareholder of Bombardier, and I second this motion. The proposal was duly made and seconded. I will now ask Mr. Robitaille to proceed to the electronic vote. I would like to invite you to vote on the non-binding resolution with regards to Bombardier's approach for the compensation of the senior management members by pressing on 1 if you are for or 2 if you are against. The vote is now open. The vote is now closed. Here are the results. I see that there is a majority in favor of this resolution. I thus declare it carried. Let's now review the 4 shareholder proposals presented by the Shareholders Educational and Advocacy Movement, MEDAC, that must be presented to the Assembly so that we can vote. The text of each of those 4 proposals and the reasons are reproduced in Annex B of the 2019 circular. Bombardier's board recommends that you turn down the 4 shareholder proposals for the reasons mentioned for each of them at Annex or Appendix B of the 2019 circular. As you read them before this assembly, it is not necessary to read them publicly. I would like to invite one of MEDAC's representatives, I see that you are already here, to briefly present those observations and to file a motion for the 4 shareholder proposals so that we can then vote on them. Mr. Chairman, once again, Willie Gagnon, representing MEDAC, the Shareholders Education and Advocacy Movement. So if I understood, we will vote for all the 4 proposals after the presentations? Yes. First proposal, integration of the environmental, social, and governance criteria in the executive compensation. The compensation committee should file the findings of the importance that it grants to social, environmental, and governance observations for the performance of the top executives and the setting of their compensation. That was a proposal sent to all of the corporations part of our portfolio. There are about 20 of them, so all the banks and most of them agreed not to vote on this proposal given the fact that in most corporations the policies are linked to the remuneration policy. I understand that this is not exactly the case for Bombardier and in companies where there are no mechanisms. For CGI, for instance, they obtained the commitment of the board of directors so that it might use its discretionary power with regards to remuneration when the top managers do not respect those policies. It was not possible to obtain same commitment with Bombardier. We hope that it will be the case one day. So we had a lengthy discussion with management. It wasn't possible to come to an agreement. So, of course, we invite all of the shareholders to support that proposal in order that we can keep on discussing with you with regards to those issues. Our second proposal will not be subject to the vote. It was a proposal for the disclosure of information on the independence of the directors. It is a statutory regulation. You have to disclose the independence of the directors. We saw that you disclose more information than other companies. It is generally the case for companies such as yours, and we're satisfied with Bombardier's policies. This is why we decided not to ask for a vote on that proposal. I have a colleague with me who can discuss the next proposal if you allow us. John Chambers, representing MEDAC, and I'm also a shareholder. Number 3, I'm sorry, could you repeat your name, please? Jean Chambers. The votes by categories of shares. We want the company to disclose the results according to the vote share classes, those with a right to vote and those who have several rights to vote. In 2018, this proposal was supported by 15 by 77% of the votes, which represents an important increase compared with 2016, where we had 16.23%. According to the results of votes in 2018, over 570 million votes supported our proposal for a total of 572 million votes, more or less. So who was not controlled by the family? More than 90% of independent votes, which represented around 59.40% of votes. If controlled shareholders had only had common shares instead of actions with multiple votes. According to our experience over the previous years, we know that holders of different types of shares could not share the same concerns. Let's mention that the implementation of the advisory votes on compensation of executives, the renewal of the mandate of a director or several directors, and the question of diversity within the board. Shares with multiple voting rights include some advantages, such as the respect of the major governance principles of a corporation, So we have the different types of shares. All shareholders must have direct and quick access to the voting results in order to be assured that their voice is clearly heard. Such information would allow the minority shareholders to better follow up the company's action to fulfill their expectations, and also aims at having a more open dialogue. If we look at those two categories of shareholders, they could also enable to retain minority shareholders and maintain a harmony and mutual trust that might be most useful in difficult times for the company. It's quite simple, and your refusal often contributes to our comments. Thank you. Do you have any other comments regarding your proposals? Mr. President, if you allow me, there still are two proposals on the agenda. I will read them. Willie Gagnon, representing MEDAC. The next two proposals, taking into account the one that was just mentioned, represent comments with regards to multiple voting shares. This type of shares have been allowed in our country for a long time, and that type of plan contributed to protect the headquarters in Quebec. There is a fight between Quebec Inc. and Bay Street with regards to the control of Quebec companies. MEDAC is not fundamentally against the existence of that type of multiple voting rights shares. However, that comes with moral responsibilities which should take place here. Bombardier is certainly not a mean company. You are a nice company. We like you. We don't want it to be sold. We don't want it to leave Quebec. But it is at the very limit of the exercise of that type of regime. In a 2017 letter written by the Caisse de dépôt, and I'm sorry, I will read an excerpt of that letter. Caisse de dépôt said, "We believe that an important component of a board is to act as the trustee of the relationship with the shareholders of the company. It should protect its reputation with investors, governments, and communities, and in collaboration with the employees." This is very important for Bombardier because of its competition with companies who benefit from a strong support of their shareholders. Given Bombardier's governance principles, we see that this goes beyond the compensation principles. We believe that the board should better assess and balance the various interests of the shareholders, employees, all the stakeholders, clients, suppliers, the community, and it can even be broader than that with the governments. Over the years, we had the feeling, we still have the feeling, that populations is quite cynical with regards to Bombardier for several reasons. We received phone calls at MEDAC from shareholders who had Bombardier shares at the beginning of the 2000 worth $26. Today, we're very far from that. Those shareholders invested in Bombardier, believing that they would have a long-term yield, and that has been almost 20 years. The value of the share is now around $2 $2.50 to $30. I didn't check this morning. It's not $26. Not anymore. We sent you 2 proposals and a third that we just mentioned. We sent you a proposal on the control threshold, inspired by Mr. Yvan Laire's proposal, who worked for you for a long time. The point being to make sure that the control shareholders hold a minimum of shares between 15 and 20%. That would be reasonable, according to us. In our discussions with the company, this proposal was turned down very strongly. We also have a proposal to put an end to the multiple voting rights shares. We would have been open not to hold a vote on this proposal if we would have seen a certain open-mindedness with regards to the other proposals, the increase of your best practices, the improvement of your governance practice for multiple voting rights shares doesn't seem to interest you. We believe that in the limit case of Bombardier, we're not against the multiple voting rights shares, but in your case, which is at the very limit, I think it should come to an end. In the list of the major institutional investors supporting our proposal, it's part of our proposal. There are several who said publicly this week and in the previous weeks to say that they agreed with our proposal. We know that we will lose this vote. We know it. The company is controlled by multiple voting rights shares, and this control is getting thinner and thinner compared with last year, and we are afraid that this control is lost. We are afraid for the protection of the headquarters. We would like to be able to discuss of this future with you, what you do with the other important shareholders of the company, so that you can organize yourselves. We do hope that the result of today's vote will enable Bombardier to discuss with us and with the other stakeholders and to have a debate in society on those major issues. We do hope that you will listen to the results and take them into account. We invite all the shareholders to support both our proposals. And I would like to end by saying that we are not alone in this. You spoke about 2 proposals. I suppose that you are also proposing the 4 proposals. I was talking about the last 2 proposals right now. Of course, I'm asking for the filing of the 4 proposals. My colleague is here to support me. Thank you. Does a shareholder want to second MEDAC's proposal? My name is John Chambers. I'm a shareholder, and I second this motion. So a motion was duly made and seconded with regards to the 4 proposals from MEDAC. And I would now ask again Mr. Robitaille to help us vote on those. First, before we vote, I would like to say that we are in disagreement. The family's interests are not aligned with, when you say that the family's interests are not aligned with the interests of all the shareholders. This company has been here for 75 years in Quebec, and over all those years now we have 68,000 employees across the world. It's a very large company, and 21,000 in Canada. And if it weren't for the long-term approach adopted by Bombardier family, we could say, and others said it actually, independent shareholders said it, there wouldn't be an aeronautics industry here in the country. So for all those reasons that are explained in our circular, and with what I tell you this morning, we recommend that those proposals are turned down. Each of the 4 proposals from MEDAC will be subject of a distinct voting process according to the modalities explained earlier. For each of the proposal, you have to press on 1 if you are in favor or 2 if you are against. The vote is open for the first of MEDAC's proposals. The vote is now closed. The vote is open for the second of MEDAC's proposals. The vote is now closed. The vote is open for the third of MEDAC's proposals. The vote is now closed. The vote is open for MEDAC's fourth proposal. The vote is now closed. Here are the results. And I see that there is a majority against MEDAC's four proposals, so I declare the results that all those four proposals have been turned down. I would like now to invite Mr. Alain Bellemare to make his presentation.
Thank you, Pierre. Good morning, everyone, and once again, welcome to Bombardier's annual shareholders meeting. It's a pleasure for me to be here with you today, and it's a real honor for me to lead this great company during a period of transformation. We're now in the fourth year of our 5-year turnaround plan, and so far we have made tremendous progress towards a very clear goal, that of returning Bombardier to its position as a global industrial champion. A company capable of delivering long-term value to our shareholders, of supporting our customers' needs, and of providing our employees with rewarding career opportunities. A company based right here in Montreal and that can compete and win around the world. A company that is much stronger today than it was 4 years ago.
It has not been easy, nor did we expect it to be. When we launched our turnaround plan in the fall of 2015, it was clear that we were embarking on a very demanding journey. First, we knew that internally we would have to make some very important changes. As you will see in a few minutes, we have and we continue to significantly reshape our operations. We also knew that we would face significant challenges beyond our control, that our competitors and the markets would test our resilience every step of the way, and they have. We have faced trade disputes, industry consolidation threats, rising interest rates, and economic uncertainty, just to name a few. Each of these have added stress to our plan, and today I am very proud of the way that our team has handled these challenges. Finally, we knew that our progress on a journey as aggressive and as challenging as the one that we're going through would not be done in a straight line, that there would be many high points and a few setbacks along the way. And we knew that our progress would be best measured by our ability to reposition the company for long-term success rather by our performance during a single quarter or on a single project. And as you will see, we have made huge progress to reposition Bombardier for long-term success. Depuis 2015, nous avons accompli des progrès.
Since 2015, we have made considerable progress in the transformation of our company. Today, I want to share that progress with you and to discuss the impact and benefits that Bombardier has on our Canadian economy. As you can see, the Bombardier portfolio is extraordinary. Today, our employees and products are present in more than 100 countries throughout the world. Every 3 seconds, a Bombardier plane takes off somewhere in the world. Every day, our trains move more than 500 million, 500 million people safely and reliably. That's the equivalent of moving the entire population of Quebec more than 60 times a day. And we do this safely and in a reliable fashion. All over the world, our products bring people together. We support economic development, make our cities and our communities greener and more sustainable, all the while generating billions of dollars for the Canadian economy. We are very proud to represent Quebec and Canada on the international stage and proud of the value we contribute to our economy, we at Bombardier. The numbers that you see on the screens are really impressive, but quite frankly, not known enough by most Quebecers and Canadians. We are not borderline. We are one of Canada's and Quebec's most important employers. We are Canada's largest private research and development investor. We are the second largest industrial manufacturer in Canada. And we are an incredible driver of exportation, with close to 90% of our production exported outside of the country. We are also one of the biggest employers of intern positions for Canadian university students. This year alone, we will offer more than 1,000 internship opportunities. We have some interns here with us today, as a matter of fact. Please make yourselves known. Please don't be shy. Stand up. We like to see who you are. There you go. Welcome. Welcome to Bombardier. We're really glad to have you with us today. I am convinced that you'll love your experience with us. But honestly, what I meant to say was that school is finished and so's the party. It's now time to work and put your elbows to the grind. We're going to keep you busy during your internship, so have a great internship, and I'm sure you're going to appreciate it to its full extent. In short, Bombardier is a global leader in creating value thanks to the skills and talents of our employees who develop cutting-edge, innovative products here in Canada for export all over the world. And in doing that, our reach extends well beyond our borders. But today, we employ close to 60,000 employees around the world. These are very talented people who come to our facilities, our service centers, and our research labs every day to drive the success of our company. And today, I would like to thank all of our employees for their commitment and contributions.
Passion and willingness to embrace change will propel us to new heights. Thank you. Halfway through our 5-year turnaround plan, a plan designed to position Bombardier to deliver sustainable value to shareholders. When we launched this plan in 2015, we had our skeptics. Some said that the hurdles we faced were too high and that our challenges were too many. But we put our heads down and executed our plan, setting the foundation for a bright future. Today, the major aerospace program risks have been largely retired. Our reshaping initiatives and production ramp-up are moving forward at both trains and planes. We are making huge progress every year, and we're doing it the right way, with a commitment to the highest level of ethical standards. By providing a safe and healthy workplace for our people, and by demonstrating environmental excellence in our products and in our operations. J'aimerais maintenant partager avec vous.
I would now like to share a few of our accomplishments over the past few years. The work achieved by our teams is truly remarkable. Since 2015, we've raised over $5 billion of liquidity to support our turnaround journey. Our historic partnership with Airbus was another major accomplishment. This partnership will allow us to unleash the full value of the A220, the best commercial aircraft in the 100-150 seat segment. Today, the program has a potential value of more than $5 billion, and together, Bombardier and Quebec own 49%. This partnership has also preserved thousands of high-paying jobs in Mirabel, and it will help us ensure Montreal retains its position as global aerospace hub. In the business aircraft, we successfully completed the development and entry into service of our new Global 75000 business jet, an aircraft built here in Canada that redefines industry benchmarks for speed, range, comfort, as well as cabin size. An aircraft that is breaking records, like traveling from New York to Los Angeles in less than 4 hours. An aircraft with a range of more than 8,000 nautical miles, capable of going nonstop from London to Singapore, Montreal to Bangkok, and New York to Hong Kong. And an aircraft achieving exceptional takeoff and landing performance that is simply unmatched within the industry. In fact, I'd like to show you this performance in action.
Mike, actually I'm in altitude, just had to maintain 11,000.
Ça peut presque atterrir dans notre cour.
It could practically land in our backyard. It's practically flying at the speed of sound. Mach 0.9, 0.925, 51,000 feet. Exceptional performances. I hope you're capable of appreciating the quality of the products that we build at Bombardier and the genius of our employees. What pride! Bombardier has been moving forward and gaining momentum year after year, and you could see this in our financial results as well.
Significantly improve our financial performance. We have double EBIT, we expanded operating margins by 300 basis points, and we are on track with our cash flow improvement plan. Bombardier is fundamentally a much stronger company today. In 2018, we reached a major inflection point in our turnaround journey. This is a profound shift. With the certification and entry into service of our new Global 7500, capital expenditures are coming down and our EBITDA is going up as we grow revenues and as we continue to transform the organization. We are now moving into the deleveraging phase of our turnaround plan. Since the beginning of our turnaround, we have managed our significant debt load by successfully refinancing it to complete the investment cycle. We will now start working towards reducing this $9 billion debt in line with our plan. Maintenant, j'aimerais vous parler de la vision.
I would now like to speak of the vision that we have for the future of Bombardier. It's a very clear and simple vision. Our future will be anchored by two strong pillars: Bombardier Aviation, with an amazing product portfolio, and Bombardier Transportation, a global rail leader. Bombardier Aviation is a strategic and exciting move for our future. It is the next logical step in the transforming of our aerospace portfolio. A streamlined and fully integrated aviation business which will allow us to better serve our customers. This strategic initiative reinforces our position as the global leader in business aircraft and maximizes the value of our CRJ platform. This is a vision that's become more and more clear since announcing the Airbus partnership. With the divestiture of our Downsview property, the sale of our training business, and the imminent closing of the Q400 sale, the time is right for this integration and optimization. We've also been looking at many strategic options for our aerostructures businesses. After a long and careful assessment, we've concluded that the best path forward in order to optimize capital allocation was to right-size the business. Accordingly, this morning we've announced our intention to pursue the divestiture of our aerostructures businesses located in Belfast and Morocco. These are great businesses with tremendous capabilities and unique technologies. This decision is the right one for the future of Bombardier Aviation for a number of reasons. First, it will preserve and integrate our core aerostructures capabilities of Montreal, Mexico, and of our new Red Oak facility in Texas. Secondly, it will allow us as well to right-size our global manufacturing footprint. And finally, it will strengthen our financial position. As you can see, the creation today of Bombardier Aviation is an important and exciting step for our future.
Supporting our future, Bombardier Transportation. This is a great business with strong growth opportunities driven by some very powerful mega trends, including urbanization, growing demands for better public transportation, and increasing calls for more environmentally friendly transportation solutions. Bombardier is well positioned to respond to these demands given our great product portfolio, one of the best in the industry, our global presence, and our impressive customer base. Today, our path forward is clear and very bright with our two strong pillars, Bombardier Aviation and Bombardier Transportation. We are returning Bombardier to its position of global industrial leader. This is good news for our shareholders, our employees, and the millions of people around the world who rely on Bombardier every day. So let me conclude by saying thank you. Thank you to all of our shareholders for the trust and confidence that you've placed in the Bombardier team. We have made great progress executing our turnaround plan, and we remain confident in our ability to successfully complete the journey. Bombardier est un fleuron québécois.
Is a Quebec and Canadian icon with amazing employees around the world. With the support of Pierre and our board of directors, I am confident that we will execute our turnaround plan successfully and that we will ensure a bright future for Bombardier. Thank you. Have a great day.
Il nous fera mettre
It will now be a pleasure for us to answer questions or to hear the comments from our shareholders. Please clearly indicate your name and also indicate whether you are a proxy holder or shareholder in order to make sure that each and every one has the opportunity to express themselves. Please make your presentations brief. You have a question? My name is Willy Gagnon, acting on behalf of MEDAC, as was the case beforehand. I have a few questions for you. On the last 26th of April, we heard of the abandonment of a project that was launched by IMF. Why have you abandoned this Arata regime? What do you have to say of the strike mandate of the C-Series individuals that we've heard of in the media? On April 2nd, we heard you through the newspapers speak of rumors of a merger, Bombardier Transport, with some European corporation. Is it Siemens or Alstom? What of these rumors? I also would like to hear what you have to say in terms of the 5,000 layoffs that go back to the month of November. Also, and finally, I would like to hear what you have to say on the voting results that were obtained previously in terms of the multiple voting shares. If everybody had voted, I think we would have had 1 billion votes. The total shares controlled by the family is 298 million, so 4 or 5 times more than that of the family's shares. How do you interpret those results? So 5 questions. The floor is yours.
Oui, bonjour. Je vais répondre à...
I'll answer 4 of your questions. I'll start with l'Autorité des marchés financiers. We're really glad that this is finished. This investigation was led in a very professional manner and a great deal of due diligence. So we're very happy that this is finished now and that we can move on to something else. The recommendations that were made, we've understood them. We agreed with them, and we've decided to put them in force. In terms of the merger, you understand that I won't be able to answer that question before an audience of 1,000 individuals. Yes, it might be better. Yes, there, the microphone is on. Did you understand the first answer? Okay. So in terms of possible mergers, it's absolutely strategic and confidential, so we're not going to speculate over rumors. The negotiations between the union and the company are part of the discussions between the union and the company. We're very happy with the progress made on the Bombardier side, and we're working with Airbus in order to help them obtain an agreement, and I'm confident we will. We have excellent employees, and the company wants to do right by them. So I think we will be able to have a meeting of the minds. In terms of the 5,000 employees, we have already broached the topic. We need to increase our productivity. You spoke of the need to increase the performance for shareholders, and I think that those 2 philosophies are completely in line. You've asked a question on the multiple voting shares. Once again, I'll repeat to you that the Bombardier-Baudouin family is very much in line with the long-term shareholders for the company. I understand that some vote in favor of your proposal, but the shareholders that invest in Bombardier understand the company's structure. It exists since 1980, and we have no intention of changing it. President, my name is Jean Saint-Pierre. I am a Bombardier shareholder for close to 60 years. If I had only invested in Bombardier today, I wouldn't be here. But I've hung on to them because you have a beautiful company. I saw what the revenues were for 2018, 16.2 billion. And also, according to other relevant information sources, you're probably going to be having 23 million in revenue for the current fiscal year. As a shareholder, a Bombardier shareholder, and all those who are holders of Category B shares, we don't and we haven't received any dividends for a very long time now. So this income that's going to be there, what reasons motivate you that all Category B holders don't receive any dividends while senior management is having access to these remarkable wages and salaries, And you did say previously that the shareholders here are important. They play an important role in your company, but that doesn't seem to be the case. The shares are at $2.32 this morning. It has already been at $26. But we hung on to them because this is a homegrown company, a beautiful company. I would like to hear from you, when are you going to redress and bring back the dividend for the ordinary Category B shares, and when are you going to do something about the senior management salaries? You spoke of performance. Yes, there is a certain level of performance, but if you look at the economy as a whole, we're in a favorable environment, and I don't think that Bombardier is at the head of the game. So I'd like to hear your answers with these regards. Thank you for your comments. Firstly, in terms of the dividends, our priority, as Alain expressed it in his speech, is to put the company back on track in terms of its cash flows. Once the cash flows will be redressed, we'll be better able to deal with the long-term debt of the company. So in the short term, we want positive cash flow for operations, and secondly, we want to reduce the debt, and once we would have accomplished that, we can have a discussion with our board of directors. In terms of compensation, it is our role at the board of directors to make sure that we have a competitive compensation offer in order to have the best team possible at hand. And this is exactly what we have. We have a turnaround team that is supporting us, and their wages or their compensation is in line with their skills and capabilities. We have the best of the best in order for us to keep moving forward. Thank you. The share, currently, do you foresee, because we've listened to what Mr. Bellemare introduced to us beforehand, it's all very remarkable, but how is it that the share isn't budging? There must be a reason. People are worried. In Toronto, there are problems. We've heard about with what you've produced. Our friend Sebia from the Caisse de dépôt ordered his electric trains from elsewhere. What's going on? What is the reason behind all of this? I don't know, Alain, if you want to add any comments yourself, but as I've already mentioned, we're currently on a turnaround plan, and many positive things have been expressed in Alain's speech, and we have gone forward in the last few years, but there's still some work to be done in order to convince all of the shareholders that we are indeed on the right path, on the right track. I am myself very much convinced that with the plan that we've submitted to you this morning, our objectives are clear. The company has been streamlined, and we're going to be able to progress over the next few years. But everybody has to understand our new path. At one point in September, senior managers of Bombardier shared 30 million amongst themselves, and M. Bellemare 10 million alone. So as a shareholder, that is frustrating to see that we aren't getting one penny, and we take a look at what your compensation is like. It's important for us to be here and to take part and to participate. If you're there, if you're where you are, sitting where you are, it's because we are sitting where we are. Thank you for your comments. We fully understand what you've just expressed. On the long term, the incentives are very important for our leaders. They've got several options that they can exercise. And when we talk of compensation, part of the compensation is our long-term incentives, rather. That's part and parcel of the whole package. Well, I can only hope then that our shares will be worth more shortly. Well, thank you very much for your comments. I'd like to say this. There's a parallel to be drawn. The reason why I'm here is to support investors such as yourself who've trusted Bombardier over the years. We're going through some turmoil, absolutely, but I think we are way better off today than we were in 2015. We've not completely finished our turnaround plan. We have 1 or 2 years left before the company really and truly be considered to be on a robust base. You've trusted us all those years. Our role is to make sure that we continue creating value for shareholders. And there are ups and downs. I've explained it earlier in my speech. But we have a tremendous team behind us, and every day we come to work and we face these challenges and we do what we need to do to make sure that the company is on the right path for the future. I bought them when I was 20. I'm 80 today. And I'm still with you. I'm hanging in there. Thank you very much for your loyalty. Thank you. I wanted to add something. No, there have been some gentlemen who were waiting before you. At the back of the room?
Je me présente, Jacques Bouchard, actionnaire.
I'm also a shareholder, Monsieur Bouchard. A few weeks ago, I was listening to a show on Radio-Canada, Enquête, and Bombardier was maybe going to be selling some of its aircrafts to more or less trustworthy individuals. I'd like to have some comments. As I previously explained, we work only in one fashion, and that's the proper fashion. When we sell our aircraft, there are processes in place in order to validate that the buyers of our aircrafts are respecting our policies, and the policies are at the strictest level. There are all sorts of rumors, obviously, but our way of doing things is exceptional. We sell planes around the world. We've created thousands of jobs right here in Canada, and we're going to always sell our aircrafts the proper way. We have a very high regard for ethics. Our policies and procedures are of the strictest level, and we're not going to deviate from those, nor is it our intention to deviate from those in the long term. It was a two-pronged question, so if I may, I would like to address the president of the meeting. We know that the salary of our leaders is high, and they're high even with regards to their performance. You know that we know also that senior management is under great pressure. They have to sell the Bombardier products, and in order to sell those Bombardier products, that's what they need to do in order to improve their compensation. We know full well that when dealing with very high payments, there's nobody that can't be bought off. Nobody. Everybody has his or her price. And this worries me. The way in which the senior executives, whether it be Bombardier, SNC-Lavalin, regardless of the entity, when we're dealing with performance, sometimes we can be led to push the bill somewhat, and that is something that worries me. If I may, I'd like to answer your question, and Pierre can always add to what I have to say. These insinuations are unacceptable, Monsieur Bouchard, because that's not the way we work. And that type of insinuation is completely bogus. Our team is fully committed to the success of our corporation, and they only work in one way, and that is the right way. And we're going to keep working the right way, the proper way, by following those rules and ethics that are at the strictest, highest level. So please, enough with these bogus insinuations. They're unacceptable. I appreciate your comments. You've mentioned compensation, and as I also indicated previously, the idea is to remain competitive and to attract the best talent possible. What's not very well shared in the media is that the greatest part of this compensation is on the long term and will only be achieved if the shares progress forward. So you can't associate this to income or what have you. Compensation of our senior management is always in tandem with what's happening with the shareholders at Bombardier. And we spend a great deal of time hoping that these two ideas are in line. I would like to add to what Alain Bellemare said, is that ethics at Bombardier are a priority and always have been. Never do we accept any compromise. Yes, we do sell products around the world. We sell very expensive products around the world, so we're extremely careful. We follow the strictest and best procedures, world-class procedures, so we never like any insinuations indicating otherwise, because it's just not true. Well, it's a great pleasure for me to hear you say it, to hear it out of your own mouth. I appreciate your comments as well, Monsieur Bellemare. Thank you, Monsieur Bouchard. Greatly appreciated. Yes, we'll make sure that you stick to this ethics, to those ethics. Yes, because the credibility of the company is at stake.
I'm a shareholder and I've invested a lot of my life savings.
Excuse me, can you speak just a little bit closer to my microphone, please?
My name is Chris Watcher. I've invested a lot of my life savings in this company, and I've noticed something, that there is some leak of confidential information which is being reflected in the market. I've seen puts, and Bombardier is the third largest short sales, and also some of the puts all of a sudden becomes like 20 times, 30 times. Somebody's manipulating the stock, and probably it could be, is it possible that some of the confidential information is being leaked out either through the management or employees? So, and also when this type of occurrences occur, it is your responsibility to keep an eye on this and ask the Security Commission to follow this up, rather than have people like us get nervous as to what the hell is going on. So would you kindly explain?
So, good morning, and thanks for your question. I think it's very difficult to describe or try to explain overall trading patterns in any given part of the market on any given stock. What I can tell you is that, it's true that the shares of Bombardier have been volatile over a period of time. Here we're going through a turnaround, and sometimes that, I guess, does invite overall different trading patterns. But I would assure you that we have a very high internal process of confidentiality, that the information that is within our company is highly regulated, and that we act within the best practices of every regulator. So I don't share the same type of concern with respect to information leakage, so to speak, and I would suggest only that there is volatility in the stock, and that perhaps does invite some trading that is highly in volume or in volatility.
Okay, I hope you all are doing a good job in monitoring the volatility and the speculation and also short sales means that people like big banks who are holding the shares lend the shares out to short sellers so that they can later on buy it back and make a profit. What do you say to that?
Thank you. We're taking note of this. Thank you very much.
Good day. My name is Ben Lank. I'm a shareholder. Congratulate you guys. There's been a lot of work put in on this company. You're still faced with all kinds of challenges. But I'd just like to go back in time to the middle of July last year, when the stock was around $5.50. Around the 2nd of August, when you announced your second quarter results, you announced that there were strategic decisions coming down the pipe. On the 15th of August, the automatic share disposition program was put in place. And on the 17th of September, the executives of Bombardier were allowed to start exercising options. Now, arguably, 2 weeks before the end of the third quarter, arguably that could be considered a blackout period, when management of the company has access to non-publicly disclosed information that us shareholders were not entitled to. 2 weeks before the end of the quarter, and I remember looking at the stock and wondering what the hell was going on, seeing this incredible volume and seeing the stock just plummet downwards, wondering what was going on. I thought there were some institutions that had access to information that the rest of us did not have. So it came as an incredible surprise to me. Listen, I can take guidance changes, I can take surprises in the market, rail contracts not working out, but when I read that management had generated profits of $30 million by exercising options 2 weeks before the end of the quarter, that came as a brutal, brutal surprise to me and left an incredibly sour taste in my mouth. And I can venture to say that the AMF did their investigation, they cleared it, but if the Quebec government wasn't a significant investor in this company, And if the province of Quebec was not employing the number of people that the Bombardier employs, I'm not so sure that this investigation would have let the company off scot-free. I would just like to have your comments. So I guess the one comment I'd like to know is, a management team, you guys are doing a good job. I give you credit for that. But what I found very surprising is that $30 million of profits were generated by 5 top executives of Bombardier on information that the rest of us did not have access to. I'd just like to know, 2 weeks before the end of the quarter,
Thank you, sir, for...
no, just one last comment. 2 weeks before the end of the quarter, how you can suddenly find out that there's going to be a $600 million shortfall in the cash flow. The market obviously reacted to that, but the market, I think, obviously also reacted to the fact that there were all these sales going on. That's all I have to say. I'd like your comments on that, please.
Thank you, sir. With respect to the RATA, to the automatic sale plan that was put in place, you need to understand that Bombardier has followed the best practice when they put in place that plan. And this was 30 days before even the first trade was made. About your comment about the IMF and the independence and the involvement of Quebec government, we take note, but we don't share your views, obviously. This management has collaborated, as you noted from the press release that the IMF has issued, has collaborated throughout the whole exercise, the whole process, and the investigation that the IMF has done. And as you could see from the press release from the IMF confirmed that we've complied with all the rules in respect of this program. So thank you for your comment.
Could you just give me some color in the fact that, because Mr. Belmar was quoted in the press as saying, we only found out 2 weeks before the end of the quarter that we were going to have a cash flow shortage. Shouldn't management be aware of these financial problems well before 2 weeks before the end of the quarter? And perhaps have made disclosure to the market about the shortfall as opposed to announcing it on the 8th of November when the third quarter results were announced?
So, good morning and thanks for the question. I think that, there's been quite a bit of public disclosure on this with respect to our earnings calls, subsequent Investor Day. We have gone through a lot of the description of what is happening with respect to the progress of some rail projects that were the subject of that shortfall. And so I think I would invite you to go through all of that disclosure. We have described this in detail with respect to both our adjustments for 2018 and the progress of each of those projects along the way. I won't make any other comment here other than just say that we abide by the strictest ethical codes. We have obviously no privileged information upon deposing any of this the share disposition plan, and that fundamentally we have been transparent with respect to our knowledge of the progression of the business. The train business is a volatile business, and sometimes there is volatility in its performance.
Just like one closing comment, please, if I may. Sure. I know the company's faced with a lot of challenges. The C-Series obviously preoccupied the management team for a number of years at the expense of the rail division. There's contracts that some of your clients are expressing major depression at the delays of delivery, et cetera, the liquidity issues. I know all that. My beef is we're all supposed to be on the same page as shareholders. Okay, if management feels that confident about the company, let's be on the same page. Don't allow us to read after the fact that what is perceived by us as being access to privileged information, the ability to dispose of and exercise millions of options to the tune of $30 million for 5 top management executives. That's all. Thank you.
Let me conclude by saying that we are aligned. I mean, we're coming to work every day to create value for shareholders. We're working on this turnaround plan. It has been a challenging turnaround, as you said. It started with the C-Series, but look at every actions that we took over the past 4 years, in putting this company on better footing. That's what we do, and we do it the right way. So again, having people saying that we might not do it the right way, it's very difficult to accept because it's wrong. It's not the way we work. We only work the right way, and we work for the benefit of the shareholders. That's our number one priority. It's working for you.
Well, hopefully we'll see the stock starting to appreciate.
Thank you for your comments. Sir?
Bonjour, monsieur.
Good morning. Jean-Rémy Yard. I'm very happy to be a shareholder of Bombardier. It's been the case for the past 3 years. However, I would like to ask a few questions with regards to your investment strategies or the future strategies. First, so currently, you produce 5 planes a month of the C-Series in Mirabel. That will increase to 10 very soon, and there will be 4 that will be manufactured in the United States with the new Airbus facilities. So that is 14 a month. I assume that over the years you will increase the number of aircrafts that you will manufacture across the globe. What will be Mirabel's roles with regards to the increase in the production capacity insofar as there are investments made in the U.S., you will also make investments in Mexico? What about Mirabel? Do you think that it will be set aside compared with those more productive facilities? That's my first question. Can I answer this first? Yes. First, the A220 headquarters is here in Mirabel with its president and the functional teams. It's our heart. This is where it started. The heart of the C-Series activities for Airbus 220 is based here, so it has a bright future. Our backlog is very full, very high, and having an assembly line to serve the American market is important. If we look on the global scale, there are enough volume and market for 2 manufacturing plants. I do not doubt that. So there won't be a third in Mexico. It's not our intent. I think that 2 is enough for now. We don't have any plan to build a third plant. So you will increase the production capacities of both plants, Mirabel and the U.S.? Absolutely. This is what must be done. And also, I'd like to say, to conclude, that if we want to keep jobs here in Quebec and Canada and Mirabel, we have to be as competitive as elsewhere. This is critical. Absolutely. Thank you. My second question now, in the rail industry. I've been noticing that, on the one hand, you have excellent trains in Île-de-France. The SNCF says that it has never had such good trains for that region, the region of Île-de-France, so Paris and the surrounding areas. SNCF also complains about the quality of the trains in other regions. It's probably not the same plant that manufactures them, and it's not the same technology. So, also, in other European countries, they complain about the quality of the Bombardier rail products. How come, on the one hand, you are absolutely amazingly performant? And I have to say that I took the train between Gare du Nord and Saint-Denis a few years back, a Bombardier train. It's written on a huge aluminum plate, 8 feet by 2, Bombardier. For a Quebecer, I mean, you can be really proud when you see that in France. This being said, it's an exceptional train in terms of its look, the inside configuration. It feels like you're on board a plane, actually. So, there is a big gap between the quality of the Île-de-France trains and what is sold elsewhere in France. Why? No, there is no difference. You have to understand. We move 500 million people every day. Our trains are amazingly reliable. We have among the best trains in the world in terms of reliability and operation. What you read in the papers are little mentions of different projects. Over the past years, we have increased our production rhythm considerably. We have a lot of new trains that have come into service, and we've had capacity issues. and commissioning issues of new types of trains, which is absolutely normal. We do not produce candies. What we produce are candies are good, obviously, but what we manufacture are complex products, as you saw with the Global 7500, and you say it's the case with our trains. So I'm happy to hear your question, because there's a perception in Quebec and in Canada that are there for wrong reasons. People like to criticize Bombardier, but in reality, we are the best train manufacturer in the world. And often our performance is not well enough recognized. So the issues that we have, we know them. We're not the only ones who have those issues. It's the case of our competitors as well. They have their share of problems, and those issues are addressed. But one of the most important thing, and we have our new president here who have just visited 26 clients, and unanimously, without any exception, those clients have provided an excellent feedback, which is that our clients are really happy with the performance of our trains when the trains are in service. We manufacture the best trains in the world. We would like to sell a bit more of those trains in Canada. Maybe you could have blamed our associates in certain cases, such as Siemens in the U.S. They've failed somewhat. Well, I like your idea. We will collect the newspaper clippings about our competitors, and we will publish this. Well, I don't read the papers, but I read the DISNAT comments at the bottom of the pages. You know the little lines? This is what I read. Well, thank you for your comments. There's also an agreement with a Chinese company. Oh, we've lost the sound for high-speed trains. And what really surprised me in this agreement is that the contract was signed at the beginning of the month, and the first planes were deliverable at the end of the month, and 3 months later, trains rather, and then complete trains. How do they perform such miracles? Well, they don't perform miracles in China. We have 7 joint ventures in China. We work with them. We know exactly what they do. The development cycle for a train is extremely well regulated. It's very disciplined, and for those products, you need a very high security level. So they work just like us, and I would say that we are very proud of the way we develop and certify our train and the way they are commissioned as well. So we are right to be proud of our train business, the railway business unit. Thank you. Thank you to take Bombardier at heart the way you do. Thank you. John Chambers, shareholder. I won't repeat everything that's been said before, but I just want to share my feeling when that happened last fall, the transaction, the super transaction with the RATA process. It's just as if you had taken money out of my pocket and put it elsewhere. The small shareholders saw things in this fashion. I lost quite a lot of money for a small shareholder like me. And after, when they started analyzing the transaction, we saw that some people made a lot of money. I know it's part of the remuneration issue, but the small shareholder did not see things the same way. And you take money out of a pocket and you put it in another pocket. Thank you for your comments, sir. Thank you. Sir? Mr. President, I would like to make a last comment. I am Willie Gagnon. I represent the MEDAC. I will be brief. Already a lot of people said how proud they were to board vehicles of Bombardier everywhere in the world, and it's my case as well. You're very proud to board a train in France or Chicago and so on. The first time I was able to drive a vehicle by myself is when I was very young, and it was a Bombardier Skidoo in the 60s that belonged to my grandfather, Joseph Armand Neveu. So those are great memories. In 2003, you sold the recreational product division. In 2015, there was Bombardier Transport with the support of the Caisse de Dépôt. So there was a company in the UK, and we have the merger rumors. Then you got rid of CL 415 a bit later, and today you let go of the control for the C series, once again with the support of the state. When you do the math, I mean, it's quite a simple calculation. When you look at the money invested by the state in the C series and the money that was put in by the Caisse de Dépôt and Bitterville, well, if that money had been put into the purchase of Bombardier shares, the state would have, well, not the control, because with the multiple voting right shares, they would be a majority owner. If you read in your regulations that the majority holders mean more than one individual, Mrs. Bombardier, Mrs. Bombardier, Mrs. Bombardier, Mr. Bombardier, and their descendants, their respective descendants born. And to be born, you feel like you're reading the succession document of the British royal family. When will you be able to talk about the share of the company control with the shareholders, the Quebecers who invested in your company? Thank you for your comment. As I've already said, I think that the family has shown over the years that for us, the success of our community is extremely critical, as it can be seen today with the importance that we have here in Quebec and with our products sold all over the world and manufactured elsewhere. I hear you, but as I said before, our capital structure is well known. It's been in existence since the 80s, and our intention is not to change it. Gilbert Tremblay, shareholder. I've been a shareholder for 20 years. I simply like to say that I'm proud to be a shareholder of Bombardier and proud to see boards such as yours who managed to bring Bombardier to the level it is now, given the international competition that you are facing. We know that Bombardier is an industrial leader with new technologies in R&D, and you managed to obtain about you have over 60,000 employees, and at $92 an hour, I think a lot of people would like to work for Bombardier. So thank you very much for all your efforts. And there are ups and downs, as is the case for any company. We saw it recently with Boeing. So, gentlemen, please keep on with your good work, and mainly keep on having your headquarters here in Quebec. Thank you very much. Thank you all for your comments. That is the right time to ask if there are any further questions or comments, because it's great to be able to finish on such a pleasant note. Any further comments? No? Well, then we have come to the closing of our meeting. Who would like to propose the adjournment of the meeting? Mr. President, my name is Pierre Alain. I am a shareholder of Bombardier. I propose the adjournment of the meeting. Who would like to second this motion? Mr. President, my name is Marie-Geneviève Crépeau. I am a shareholder of Bombardier, and I second the motion. We won't vote electronically. Those who are in favor, those who are against? Thank you. The motion is carried, and our meeting is closed. Thank you very much, and goodbye.